Welcome to the video about how to set up your network on your Azure Labs computer. Let's get this out of the way here. First thing I'm going to do is I got an email. And I got an email that invited me to use this lab. So let's open that up. So here's my email. I'm going to hit register for the lab here. There will be for you some moments where you have to log in and some other stuff. But now that I've clicked the link, I actually already have a login set up. So this one, let me just close that one there. This one will be set up for me. Make sure I get this so you can see the whole thing on the screen. So here is my here's my VM. So here's the quota. Watch out for your quota here as it gets closer to the hours used. Make sure you send me an email and I can up the quota for you. If you're doing this as scheduled during class time, the times in class don't count against your quota, which is one good reason to be in class though. But here I am going to start the virtual machine. Right, so this will take a minute. Now, while I'm doing this starting, I'm going to remind myself that I am, I need to know like a username and a password here. All right, while this is starting, by the way, if you wait about 10 or so seconds, you can actually click on this little button here. I think this says show connect to the virtual machine. This will download a special little file. Come on. It should download a special little file. Oops, I can close that tab. It is not in the mood. Maybe it's going to wait till it starts up. I'm going to do it with this special little file way though, so you know exactly what's going on. By the way, I'm on a Mac here, but this doesn't work, or it doesn't have much different than a PC does. But it does do one different thing right here really quickly. And actually, let me just show you. If you're on a Mac, you actually need, I'm going to open the App Store. You need a program here called the Windows app. Okay, you need this app. I already have it, so I don't need it, but that's what you need. On a PC, it has a thing called remote desktop built in, and so a PC doesn't need it, but here you do need it. So I'm going to quit this, and I'll just note again that that's already there. And it's still just not wanting, it takes a minute to show a full starting here. I may want to refresh this. Let's see what's going on. By the way, this is an Azure machine and it's in the cloud, and so what happens in your browser isn't what's happening on that machine necessarily. So here I can just, for example, refresh, and it's not going to mess anything up here, but I am still wanting, good grief. Let's get me some downloading going here. It's funny, I never actually wait for this. You can actually get the info here, but I'm waiting for it to start up. Usually you can connect to it before this part finishes saying you are starting. And let's give it a minute here. Let me do this while I'm waiting though. Let's put this in here. Just see what's going on. This is taking forever. All right, we're still waiting for me. Oh, there we are. Now we're running. Okay, so I'm going to download this little file. Notice it appears here in my downloads. Let me scoochy this out of the way. Here it is on my desktop. This is an RDP file, and when I double click this, it's going to open the Windows app on my Mac. Again, if you're on a PC, if you double click this, it's just going to open your remote desktop, and that'll be fine. All right, here we go. First step. I am literally just following the steps that are listed in the assignment. So notice here the username is already in there, so this tilde with a backslash cisadmin, that's totally fine. I'm going to type in the password that's listed on the assignment page. If you're not in my class, you need to know this, and I'm not going to tell you mine, so there you go. Now this is very typical here. You're connecting to such and such, and there's not a certificate on here. In a while, if you're in my class, you'll learn about how these verifying root certificates happens, but for now we don't care, and we're going to hit continue. Now if I want to do this the long way, I can go into here, and there might be a way, I can't remember in Mac, to do that it always accepts it, but this is something I'm just going to trust is happening. Now, this has gone full screen on me, which is fine. And I'm going to zoom it down so we can see it. Let me go here, and I'm just going to frame it up in the window. Now, it's okay. Notice it's a little stretched. Maybe I'll stretching out really well. Yeah, I think this is okay. All right, here we are. This is very normal. I can actually, let me scoot this off because we don't actually need that top part to show. This should be more or less what you see on your screen if you're running at full screen, which is also okay. So it's okay to run at full screen. Now I'm referring back to the instructions. We just did this one. The instruction number 2 is every time you are connected, when asked the network question about discoverability, be sure to click yes. When we see that, we'll make sure it happens. Now we're on step 3, wait for the server manager to start up. When I see remote access on the left side, which this just appeared, and notice a bunch of things are appearing down here, and we aren't going to worry about those right now, but we are going to get into remote access right now. Now let's go into remote access. So I'm clicking on tools, and I'm hitting routing and remote access. Notice this ridiculously similarly titled thing. Make sure we're in routing and remote access. We're going to click this. So this opens up a little tool right here. And what this tool enables us to do is it's going to enable we're going to create some little sub VMs in this Azure VM. So we have a virtual machine that we've installed. That's the Azure machine that we're going to call the Azure machine. We're going to install some other machines on here in Hyper-V. You'll see that in a minute. And for now, we just need to make sure those machines are able to access the internet. We're going to use a thing called network address translation for that. I'm going to right click on here, and I'm going to say configure and enable routing and remote access. Now, just to note here, your name here won't be exactly the same because your machine has a different name to it. This is totally normal. I'm again going to right click here. I'm hitting configure and enable routing and remote access. I click this. Now I'm back again on my step here. And the step here says when routing and remote access, click the action menu and choose configure and enable routing and remote access. In the setup wizard, we click next as we go. In here, we're going to choose network address translation. Again, I'm totally just following the instructions. I hit next. Now, in this screen, if there is not a public interface available, it's usually going to be named Internet 2. I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to restart the wizard. I'm going to right click again and hit configure and enable. By the way, up here, it just says the same thing, action, configure and enable. So I'm going to hit next, hit network address translation again, and hit next. And now I see some things, okay? This is the promised Ethernet 2, and this is the one I can select, okay? I hit next. This is the network connection that will be used to connect to the internet, and this is sort of the Azure machine's internet connection. So I hit next here. The interface that will have access to the internet has already been set up for you, and it's this one called WAN switch, and it already has an IP address 10.1.0.1. I'm going to hit next here. Now I'm done. Okay, so this means that my routing and remote access is setting it up so that my virtual machines that I create on here will be able to have access to the internet. So I'm going to hit finish now. We're doing some work here. It's going to start up, and I'm actually done with this tool now, so I can close this window. This actually kind of happens normally, and I would well, not normally. This is not a good thing to happen, but it's not going to kill us. I'm going to hit OK, and it will just be done. And I can actually hit this one and hit OK, and it will just shut it down. It's been doing that, so it's not like unmanageable. All right, now we're back to Server Manager. So I'm here again. This time I'm going to go back to Tools. You should get used to hitting this menu a lot, because this is where most of the things you do in my class at least, are going to be. I'm going to hit Tools here, and here I'm going to hit Hyper-V Manager. So I hit Hyper-V Manager. That will open up this Hyper-V Manager tool. And this is very exciting. Notice here there are no virtual machines found on this server, and that's actually what we need to do next. What we're going to do first, though, is, well, what we are going to do first is create a virtual machine. The first virtual machine we're going to create is for a pfSense. So I'm going to hit New. I clicked New here, and I hit Virtual Machine. Now I'm going to go through a wizard here. pfSense is, for my students anyway, and already has the disk on here. And so we're going to install it, or set up a virtual machine for it, and then finish installation here. So I'm going to hit next on this one. For my name, I need to call it something I'll remember as the name. So I'm going to call it pfSense here. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to use generation 1 here, because that's sort of this is sort of the baseline working thing, and pfSense actually runs a version of FreeBSD, and for generation 2, you really need a newer version of Linux or a new version of Windows. So we're using generation 1. For startup memory for a pfSense 1024 is a great amount, so I'm going to hit next here. For the configure networking, I have already set up for my students 2 different network adapters. At this point, pick the one called WAN switch. And I'll tell you right now, the WAN switch is going to be in pfSense. This will be the network interface connected to the internet. So we're going to hit WAN switch here, and I'm going to hit next. I need to create a new virtual hard disk, if that's going to go. Stop doing that to me. To get around there. That's nice, that little keyboard thing, isn't it? Let me flick that off if I can. All right. We're okay here with it creating a new virtual hard disk for me, but I definitely do not want it to use 127 gigabytes. That will use up all of my memory. pfSense is fine with 8, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to hit next here. I'm going to install an operating system from a bootable CD or DVD-ROM. I'm going to check the box here. I'm going to click on image file because I've already put the ISO image on this computer. So again, if you were in my class, in here in the downloads directory, this Netgate installer here is going to be your pfSense. So I click on that, and I hit open, and now it says install an operating system from this image file, and we're ready to go with the next. And this is actually ready to go now, or almost ready to go, because we have to do one little step before this. All right, so we hit next and finish. Now it creates the virtual machine, and it's almost done. What I need to do first is actually add a second network interface to my pfSense. So pfSense is a firewall. It's going to have a WAN connection, meaning the public facing or the internet connection. And then it will have a LAN connection, and that's the private connection. And that's what we need to set up right now. So in pfSense, there's a couple of ways to get into it. One is right here with this button to hit settings. There's lots of ways to hit settings though. Up here in action, there's a settings. I probably can right click here and hit settings, but no matter what, I need to get into the pfSense settings. And here I'm going to hit a network adapter because I need one more network adapter. This is supposed to have 2 network adapters, and this one will be connected to LAN switch, and that's actually just done. Okay. So the question at this point is, or the thing you need to get out of this is a firewall, and it needs 2 network interfaces. All right, next step is I need to connect to the pfSense virtual machine. So I can hit connect here. And this is typically the order. I usually hit connect and then I hit start. All right, that's just the way I normally run it. I'm going to put this more toward the center of the screen. But we'll get used to having multiple screens open for our VMs. All right, so we're loading now actually the installer for pfSense. When we're in the pfSense setup thing, which is going to start very shortly. This is all going to be text-based and command-based. And so there's not any mousing going on when we're in our pfSense. We're going to call this our pfSense console. So we're getting closer. Come on, baby. Doing some more setting up. Thinking about some interesting stuff here. Some network connections that we're going to get interested in later. Okay, the certificate key is also handy to have. Sorts of exciting stuff going on. All right, now we're about to the installer. All right, so again, this is text base. I'm gonna do right and left arrow. You can see where I'm moving between accept and cancel. From here, you would either hit a space bar for accept or you could hit enter for accept. Oops, space bar apparently is not it. We're gonna hit enter. So again, I have arrow keys. You can see I'm install pfSense. Make sure I'm there. I'm gonna hit enter again, which is this okay. By the way, if I do the right arrows, you can see I'm moving across to advanced options. I don't need any of those. I just need an install pfSense. Now I hit enter. Setting up network to continue the installation. I'm going to hit enter for OK. Now the WAN interface, these will be in the order we created them. So it should be HN0 is WAN, which would be the WAN switch one. So I hit enter here. For the WAN switch one, this is it's set up by default and it's pretty normal. So the interface mode is DHCP. DHCP means you're going to automatically get an IP address from whoever is upstream from you, and we're fine with this. So I'm going to hit enter. Now we're going to select the LAN interface. So I'm going to hit an arrow down and make sure I'm on HN1. I'm going to hit enter. This one should be static. This is totally normal because actually the pfSense is going to act as sort of the gatekeeper of the LAN side of this network. And so they have the fixed IP address and they sort of gather their information from them. So I'm going to hit OK here. This is set up just normally and should be good to go. So I hit OK here. It's still running and thinking. We confirm the interface assignment. LAN is on HN1, WAN is on HN0. I'm going to hit enter to continue. If you are one of my students, by the way, if something weird happens, sometimes it's okay to start the setup over. So what I would say here is if something goes really crazy, you can either hit shut down, this button here that says shut down, or if worse comes to worse, hit turn off and then start it back up again. What you do not want to do is create a new virtual machine. That's not a good idea. Really, if something weird happens and you sort of shut down, restart, and try one more time with setup, for example, here, and it still doesn't work, then it's time to send me an email and I will help you out. All right, we're going to do this. CE is the community edition because we're not getting, see how it says pfSense Plus? This is actually more and more becoming a paid subscription. I hit enter for install and I'm going to hit continue, which is just to accept the default information. We're okay here. I'm going to continue, so I'm just going to hit enter again. I like the stripe. And we're making sure we're using, this is making sure of what disk we're using. This is that 8 gig disk. You can see 8.0G right there. I'm hitting enter there. Last chance, are we going to destroy it? Yes, indeed, we are going to destroy it. So I'm hitting enter again. And now we're going to install. A few things that might have gone wrong. One of them is the internet connection might not have worked. Yeah, there's some other stuff here. Here, I do need you to make sure you're being careful here. So what you want to do here is only install the release candidate. Or no, sorry, not RC. Only install the current stable release. So don't do devel and don't do a depreciated version. So the current stable release is what we want, and we're going to hit enter. Okay, now it's downloading and installing some stuff, so this is going to take a minute. And keep in mind, by the way, I'm on a cloud-based machine. So this is an Azure VM that is in the cloud that's running all of this. So my internet connection really has nothing to do with this, how the speed of this download goes. The speed of the download depends on the Azure network and how the Azure network is connected to everything else. So just keep in mind, and also just keeping that in mind too, if I just close this window or exit out, this will keep running in the background. And it usually get about 15 minutes on these Azure machines before it automatically shuts down. But sometimes, for example, if you're in class or if you're in the library or something and you need to, it's closing and you need to get home, it's possible to not shut everything down, but just disconnect from the Azure machine, go home, and then reconnect, and then get back to exactly where you were before. So that's usually not a big deal. So keep in mind, this is running on the cloud. All right, I am going to keep running this in real time, so I don't think I'm going to edit anything out, just so you know how long this is going to take. All right, now it says it's done, and I have an OK option, so I'm hitting enter. Sometimes I need to double check. I may have clicked out. I'm going to hit enter again just to be sure. I think I actually hit enter on another screen because I keep coming out and taking notes. All right, installation of pfSense complete. Would you like to reboot? Before you reboot, you actually want to eject the installation ISO. So you see in media, I've clicked on media up here. and I'm going to eject this. If you don't eject this when you hit reboot, it will redo the installation again. And so make sure you do this. If it goes back and when you restart it does installation, what that means is you didn't eject. And it's okay then, by the way, if you start the installation and you hit shut down, then eject and then restart. So here, not to confuse everything here, I'm again going to media, I'm ejecting this, and then notice it's not there. And so now I can go back in here and hit enter. I clicked in again and I'm hitting enter and it's going to reboot. And this will then boot up the actual pfSense installer. We're not quite done with setup, but we're pretty close. So let's get this started up. Yeah, there's nothing particularly strange that goes on in this. I mean, it has a lot of stuff going on. All right, so again, we are not quite done with setup. When it says, should VLANs be set up, I'm going to say no. So I'm just going to type N and hit enter. Then I see enter the WAN interface, or A, and I actually know what it is. WAN is going to be HN0. Enter the LAN interface, that's going to be HN1, and I hit enter. And then do I want to proceed? So WAN should be HN0, that was the first one to set up, starts with 0, and then LAN is HN1, so that's the second one. And I want to proceed, I type Y, and I hit enter. Now it does some little configuration. We should be going pretty well here, viewing LAN. LAN interface is easy. WAN interface, by the way, this is grabbing an IP address, and I actually set up something on your Azure before you started that's going to do it. DNS resolver is actually the thing that usually takes the most time when you see it starting DNS resolver. Once this says done, you're usually pretty close to going. And we should be pretty quick here. And then we should be there. All right, notice it said boot up complete. This is the completion of the setup. And the things you want to note here, right here where it says WAN HN0, it should say, and you should have the same, it should be 10.1.0.100 with a /24. If you haven't had networking, you won't know what that means. That's okay for now, but just make sure that on LAN HN1, it should say 192.168.1.1. If it doesn't show this on the WAN side, if it, for example, shows 169 dot something, you have a problem, and that probably means, by the way, that the WAN HN0, like something is a little hinky in there. And that's, again, you probably should be contacting me. I'm going to do one thing now, and that's just to test this to make sure everything got set up okay. This pfSense is internet connected, and so it has a lot of services in there. And the one I'm going to do right now is this ping host. It does have a ping set up. I'm going to hit number 7. So I type number 7. Now I'm hitting enter. And I'm going to type in a host name here. And I don't actually know if this works, but it doesn't especially matter for my purposes here. I'm going to type in www.appstate.edu. And I'm going to hit enter. This will take a little bit of time. This will take a few seconds at least before it finishes off its business. It doesn't really like to say everything here, but we're going to give it a second. Here's what we're interested in. The main thing we're interested here is ping www blah blah blah, and it has in parentheses this 104.8.9.161. This tells us that this computer was actually able to look up using this name and find out the IP address. And that's really a big start on just saying, like, is this internet connected and actually working? Now, it's normal that a thing won't reply to ping messages because most things on the internet don't want to do that. So this is okay. I would expect this. Now I'm going to hit enter. See how it says press enter, continue? And I'll just note here, there's a couple of things that we might come up on later. One of them is, well, there's assigned interfaces. If you didn't get your interface assigned right up here, this is something I could maybe help you fix. This reset web configurator password, there's a time in a minute we're going to reset or set a password for the web configurator, and this will reset it back to default. Rarely do you have to do this number 11, restart web configurator. And actually the very worst one is where it says, where's this restart? Reset to factory defaults. This is something that hopefully won't ever happen to any of us, but sometimes that really does happen. All right, so this means our pfSense is running and it's running fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot it over to the side of my screen here, and that's because I like to have it around because I can see it, but for the most part, the configuration and everything I'm going to do is going to connect remotely to this pfSense. So our next step now is actually to start this or create this new virtual machine that will be our internal machine. So we're setting up a firewall. We had one with a WAN and a LAN interface. Right now, everything is on a WAN side. So my Azure machine, for example, is on the WAN side of this pfSense. What we're going to do now is create a Windows server that's on the LAN side. And this Windows server will actually be where we do, in my class anyway, this is where we do sort of our exercises and we do our defense sort of stuff to defend that internal machine. So we're going to create that. I'm going to hit new again, and I'm going to get a new virtual machine. All right, this is the same sort of wizard we had before. What we're going to do here is we're going to create a new VM. This one we're going to call it Windows Server. I'm going to hit next. This time we can use generation 2. This is for the, I don't know, fancy stuff. Windows. I'm going to hit next. For a Windows server, you do want a little more memory. And I'll tell you right now, putting a lot more memory here doesn't help much. If your computer starts to slow down, like you can't really get things done, there's probably something else wrong, and it's probably not the amount of memory you have, at least here. Keep in mind, we're on a cloud machine. We're nesting virtual machines in there. There's not a lot of memory in our cloud VM to start with, or in our Azure machine. And so partitioning off extra memory for other things actually doesn't help much. So 2048 is what you want to do here. I'm going to hit next. For the connection, remember this is on our LAN side, so our protected side of our firewall. And we're going to hit next. Now we're going to create a virtual hard disk just like we did before. We do not want 127 gigabytes. We need 32 here. 32 is actually probably a little more than we need, but 32 is enough, and it's a decent amount, and we're going to do that. So I'm going to hit next here. I'm going to install an operating system from a bootable image file. I'm going to browse this again. This is the same place we were here before. This is something I do for my students. We're doing a version of Windows that's fairly old. Notice it's the Windows Server 2016. This is the oldest sort of modern looking version of Windows Server. So this is the one I like to use. I do like to use one that does have problems. And so those of you that aren't in my class or that are in my class and think we should use a more modern thing, I actually do this on purpose. So 2016 data eval. And if you're wanting to download it yourself, this is available on the Microsoft website if you want to download it. All right, so let's make sure we've got everything here. We have our 32 gig drive. We've done our booting from the server ISO. We have 2048 of memory, and now we're done and we can finish. I'm finishing here. Now we're creating our Windows server. I'm going to do again a connect, and then I'm going to start. This one I'm going to leave here because it will boot up. I have to hit space really quickly. Let me restart this. I'm turning it off. Let me show you the wrong thing that could happen. If I hit start here and I don't hit a key to boot from CD or DVD, it freezes right here. Okay? And it freezes. I mean, it's frozen. That's fine. I'm going to turn off. I'm going to hit turn off. Then I'm going to hit start. And this time before I hit start, I'm going to remember I need to press a key. So hit start. When that comes up, press a key. And it really is any key. That's the old joke in things, tech support. Someone would call you and say, I can't find the any key on my keyboard. All right, here there are a couple of places where you can mess this one up. We do indeed want English, currency, and a keyboard. This is fine. I'm going to hit next. I do want to install now. Setup is starting. Very exciting. All right, this is where it becomes important. We are going to pick standard evaluation, and where the parentheses say desktop experience, that's what you need. If you click this version, it will install Windows Server, but there will not be a desktop on it, and you won't be able to connect to it, and that's not as fun. So we do need desktop experience. Notice here it's useful when a GUI is required. These are made, by the way, for running headless, is what they call it, where you can actually just run the server as its own sort of service without any way to like connect to it locally. That's what this top version is. You don't have this. So yeah, good luck using PowerShell all the time. We're going to use a lot of GUI stuff, and we definitely need the desktop experience. So connected desktop experience, I hit next. Now this is going to take us a little while. I'm very happy to accept the licensing. I might scroll down just to make them feel better like I read it. And I'm going to hit next. I do need here to click custom. Okay. So choose custom instead of upgrade. I do want to use that drive 0. Notice it's 32 gigs that we created earlier, and I hit next. And now it's going to copy. This takes a little while, so this should take about 10 minutes. And as usual, I'm just going to sit here and watch it because that's what we do. Because I want to make sure you know how long it's going to take. In my notes, it says about 10 minutes. I'm moving some stuff out of the way here. Give me a second. All right, when you hit this restart time, you can go ahead and hit a restart now to save yourself, what, 5 seconds? This is fine. Let's get ourselves restarted here. By the way, this part is still actually doing some setup. So this is, it usually, once you get it set up, it starts pretty quickly. All right, we're almost there. All right, this is a very important password because this is the password you're going to use like for the rest of the semester. I am going to use the same password as I use for my other machine. If you're in my class, you know this is a huge security issue. But if ever I need my instructor, oh wait, that's me, to connect to my machine and actually make some changes and fix stuff, I either have to give them the password that I created or I let them know that I just use that same password every time. And so it's a good, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's a good idea on, at least for the purposes of this class, use the same password for everything in your whole everything. Okay, that includes, we'll get to pfSense in a minute, but right here, make sure you remember this password. And at this point, if you're going to use a different password, you need to write it down. So I changed that password, and now I'm hitting finish. If you forget your password, that means you have to restart the whole thing. All right, now we're ready to log in. So this last, we're going to eject the media like we did for pfSense. This isn't as much of an emergency like it was for pfSense, because remember we had that thing where it was press any key, but I still want to eject it. So I'm going to make sure that the media is ejected. Now it says press Control-Alt-Delete to unlock. Those of you that are on a Windows machine, if you want to try it, press Control-Alt-Delete. It will actually pass the Control-Alt-Delete to your outer machine. And in order to get it to the inner machine, we've got a couple of options. The main one here is to go action, or one way, is this Control-Alt-Delete. Notice here it says Control-Alt-End. That actually might not even work too, but that's if you have one of those extended keyboards. I'm on a laptop anyway. Here, I can either hit Action, Control-Alt-Delete. Let me just show you all the different ways. There's that one, that's Control-Alt-Delete. And there's also this little button here. Somehow it's Control-Alt-Delete, and anyway, but if you get, once you get used to it, that's the way I end up using it. But anyway, Action there, Control-Alt-Delete, or that is Control-Alt-Delete. All right, so I have to re-enter that password that I just barely created. So, oh boy, if I've forgotten it already, I'm in big trouble. All right, now I'm logging in. All right, there's still the same warning here. I haven't seen that the issue about discovery coming up, but we're going to make sure if ever, anytime it prompts us about networking, we want to allow it to be discoverable. So notice here, we recommend allowing this on home and work networks, but not on public ones. If you ever click no here, it actually causes a lot of problems. Okay, so don't, when you're doing this, make sure you click yes. And I'm hitting yes right now. And it just, there's some weird security settings that end up getting engaged if you ever do that. Right, since this is a Windows server, it's going to actually start up that server manager. And I'm not going to click on anything because I'm going to wait for it to do that. All right, here it goes. Now that's all started up. All right. For now, we're not going to do the server manager at all, but here it is, and it's going to be, it just starts up by default, and actually we're going to use it enough. Notice there's the tools menu right here. We're going to use a bunch of stuff in here too, so just, I guess, be ready for that. All right, here's my next comment. I'm going to actually use Internet Explorer here. All right, I'm going to fire it up, and I'm just going to keep using it. Go ahead and use the recommended thing, and this is okay. If you've ever used Internet Explorer, you probably are sad because any modern web browser is 1,000 times better than this, okay? I really don't like Chrome. The tracking stuff is weird. We could put in Firefox. And so if I was going to do that, let me just show you how hard Internet Explorer is to use. So if I wanted to use Firefox, I need to do a search, right? I'm going to use search using Bing. So I hit enter, Firefox. And what happens with Internet Explorer is because we're on a server, the server thinks you should actually never use a web browser, basically. So notice here, in order to get even any data from Bing, you have to hit add here. Make sure you leave that box checked, by the way. You have to hit add here, and you have to hit add here again. Now I'll hit close, and then it will load this again. But notice there's other stuff even being blocked here. So I'm going to hit add here also. I'm going to add about blank, which this is just to show you what an error message is. Some of this stuff you don't need. I don't know what r.bing.com is, so I'm actually just going to close that out. And I'm pretty much ready, I think, to get Firefox here. If I want to get Firefox, blah, blah, we're excited about that. I'm going to hit OK there. Notice we have to add Mozilla. I'm going to hit add. Here, if I hit download Firefox, notice here your download should begin automatically. That's exciting too. I have to hit a lot of ads. Because I'm doing all this adding, the automatic downloading won't work. So I'm going to hit try downloading again. This time it should work. I'm just going to hit save here. And then it's downloaded. Now, if you want to run the Firefox installer, that's great. I'm actually going to do all this stuff in Internet Explorer just because it sucks. Isn't that an exciting way to do it? So I'm actually just going to close this. And I'm going to go up to here, and I'm going to do my next step, which I'm going to log into my pfSense. Okay, so my pfSense, we already connected. Notice here we're on the LAN switch. This is also on the LAN switch. And so we can directly connect to this IP address, this 192.168.1.1. So I'm going to type it in over here, 192.168.1.1. Now, if I had installed Firefox, I would just switch to Firefox right now, and I would only use Firefox for a while. There's a few times when you're in my class that we need to use Internet Explorer. Honestly, Firefox is a lot better, and you might as well actually use Edge or something else too. This is, oh my goodness. I'm still going to say here yes, and we're going to go viewing pages over a secure connection. You're about to leave a secure connection, yes. And here we are on this page. So this is a normal error, by the way. So security certificate presented was issued for a different website's address, or it's not issued by a trusted certificate authority. This is fine for pfSense. I need to continue to this website. If I'm on Firefox, the error message will be different. I might have to say more details and then continue. I'm going to hit continue here. I'm back into secure again. Lots of different clicking, and we're very excited here. Give it a minute to load up here. It should switch in the top to HTTPS, but we may have problems here, and it looks like we are going to because of the allowing stuff. I'm going to go in here into Internet Options, and I'm going to go into Security, and I'm going to do Trusted Sites. and hit sites. This is really ridiculous. And I'm going to add this one to the trusted sites. This is the equivalent of what I did before with the add. I'm going to try that. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to reload. Just see what's going on. There's our certificate error. I'm going to hit this. I told you if I downloaded and installed Firefox, I would use that. Here it should have that HTTPS. Where did it go? Oh, you people. There's 192. There it is right there. I'm going to also add, oops. Let me close this. Let me just hit OK. Let me hit HTTPS right here. This is really bad. I'm forgetting how awful this was. Aren't I? Let's double check this one. I'll go to the internet options, security, trusted sites. It just doesn't want to add, does it? My goodness, this is terrible. Let me do this. Okay. Let me just copy this. Oh, jeez. Firefox would be a lot better. Is this why I don't do this usually this way? Add that one. And we'll stop this and reload this. And then the other issue we sometimes have in here is in our sites, we have to make sure that JavaScript is working. What a freaking disaster. Oops, I don't want that. Let's try setting that to a lower level, because what it's not doing is showing us the certificate. All right, we're just going to call this a disaster and try this again. All right, I'm closing this one out. And we're just going to go into Firefox. Stupid Internet Explorer. All right, we're going to run our Firefox installer. This actually only takes a minute, which is kind of fun. Okay, now we need to click on Firefox and it should actually be running. There we go. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm just going to unclick this stuff. Hit save and continue. I don't need to do that. And I don't need to do that. All right, I'm going to close out that. Now we're going to go 192.168.1.1. And here's our security, risk ahead. I hit advanced here, and I hit accept the risk and continue, okay? Now we're gonna worry about this stuff later. Certificate is not trusted because it's self-signed. I'm not gonna worry about it, but we know that's what it is. All right, here we are in pfSense. This is where we want her to be. My goodness, Internet Explorer. The default username and password is available on the internet, and since you're right here in the video, I'm going to tell you the password is all lowercase pfSense, and then you hit sign in. Okay, don't ever save this because you don't need to. And now there's an opening, like an opening up wizard. Okay, we do need to do some initial other configuration on our pfSense. This is fine here. I'm going to also hit next. This host name is fine. Domain name is fine. I need to put in a DNS server here. Let me look up and make sure I have the right DNS server. The right DNS server is going to be, where is it? Web server. And somehow I don't have, oh, there it is. Primary DNS server is going to be 168.63.129.16. This is the DNS server of the Azure machine, and so we're okay here. So I'm going to hit next here. This time zone stuff is fine. I'm gonna hit next. Wide area network, for now we're using DHCP. If I scroll down here, and this is very important, I need to uncheck this box. Okay, block private networks from entering via WAN. What happens is, and you can't really tell here, it says 10/8, 172.168. And the problem is our Azure machine is on a 10 dot network, and this, if this is checked, it would block that. So I need to hit next here. All right, then we go next. Now this is fine also, so I hit next. This admin password, I do need an admin password here. I am going to put in that password I've been using for everything else so that it's all the same. And that way, if I need to tell my professor what it is, we're going to do this. So now we're reloading. It will make us log back in, but this is fine. Wizard completed. We hit finish. It's done a few little changes. We actually have one more change to do in just a minute. Notice, by the way, over here where it says successful login for user admin, and that's just saying that we were able to connect. Now I don't know why that's not finishing. There we go. All right, and we have to get try mark notices. I need to accept that. Thank you for participating. I'm gonna hit close. Now we do have one little tiny setting to do, and that is up here. By the way, it's a good idea to keep your window maximized when you're in your web browser. Let me just zoom it down a little bit. If you zoom down, the menu goes into here, which that's not ideal. So zoom out. What I want to do here is go into services. We're going to go into DNS Resolver here. And I'm going to hit DNS Resolver. Let me just make sure what I'm doing. And I scroll down. I'm going to enable forwarding mode. And that just helps speed everything up. What that happens here is this forwards any DNS queries to that other DNS server I set. And it just makes things better. So I hit save here. And now we are pretty much set. Now, just to double check, by the way, a lot of times in pfSense, you do have to do this where you hit apply changes. So you make the change, then you have to hit apply changes. And then it should tell me, give it a second here. Notice it says changes have been applied separately. All right, now we're gonna just double check. If I go in here and go into YouTube, youtube.com, and I should be able to see YouTube. This is great, okay? So my internet connection is working, because now we're gonna do a big change. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna set it up so our pfSense is a router where right now it's using NAT. Remember, we used NAT, if you remember. We actually had to set up NAT on our Azure machine so that all of our VMs could get internet access. We have NAT set up on our pfSense. What that means for pfSense, though, is when you have NAT set up, traffic from the inside can get out, but traffic from the outside can't get back in, or you can't have traffic come in from the outside. And what that means for our class here, if you're in my class, is that our Azure machine and other machines on the WAN side are going to be used to attack our Windows server. And in order to effectively attack our Windows server, we need to make sure it's able to be accessed from outside of the pfSense. So we have to make it act as a normal router. So first thing we're going to do here is, if you're going to make something a router, what you need to do is use a fixed IP address. So I'm going to hit WAN here. And for the WAN interface, instead of being DHCP, which is the automatic one, I'm going to hit none, or not none, oops. I'm going to hit static IPv4. Now we should have IPv4 address down here that we can type in. I'm telling you what it is because this is what it is. 10.1.0.2. That, by the way, corresponds a bit over here where it used to be 10.1.0.100. We can't use 10.1.0.1 because that's what our Azure machine is using. We need to be 10.1.0.2. We're changing this from 100 to be 2. Now we do need to add a new gateway because there's not one on there. The gateway here is 10.1.0.1. Okay, so we hit add here. And what this means, by the way, our network is 10. On the WAN side is anything that starts with a 10.1.0. And these last numbers, this .2 is the pfSense IP address. And the .1 means it's the Azure machine's IP address. Over here, the way we actually say it's these three things is we change this to say 24. Okay? If you haven't had the networking class, you don't know any clue what's going on here, and just make sure these three things are correct. You got 10.1.0.2, there's a /24 here. This should be, doesn't matter what the name is, but it should say 10.1.0.1. If it says none still, we need to click add a new gateway and add 10.1.0.1. All right, so there's the IPv4 configuration. I'm just double checking that I've made sure we got everything here. That looks great. Now we're gonna hit save. I'm going to hit apply changes. And then while we're in here, I'm going to go to firewall, NAT, and I'm going to click on outbound. This was that setting I was telling you that things inside our network are allowed to go out and make connections. We are going to do a very dangerous thing. We're going to disable outbound NAT rule generation, and we're going to hit save. It's not dangerous, but what that means is we've basically just broken our network connection. So if I hit save here and apply changes, if I click on YouTube again and I hit refresh, it should just time out because it's not ready to go yet. We have to fix one thing to get that to work. And I'm just going to let that hang because it deserves to hang for a little bit. All right, we're going to go back. Now I'm leaving that running. I'm switching back to my Azure machine. So I'm actually just clicking back here, clicking here. I'm now back in my server manager of my Azure machine. I could also click on this button, click on the server manager. I go back into my tools, routing and remote access. What I need to do in here is tell the Azure machine where to go when it sees 192.168 addresses. Okay, I'm going to switch this up really quickly just to show you. Notice pfSense is 192.168.1.1. Right now, because that NAT is disabled, the Azure machine has no idea where it is. We are going to tell it. So I'm in routing and remote access. I expand IPv4 by clicking on this little greater than sign, and I go into static routes here. I need a static route. So I'm right clicking and I'm hitting new static route. The interface I'm going to use is actually going to be that WAN switch. So WAN switch is right here. The destination is that 192, and I hit a dot, and then I type 168. I type the dot button, and I put 1, and then I put a dot and a 0. Then I'm going to hit tab. In network mask, it's 255.255. I'm still hitting a dot, 255, and then the dot is a 0 here. Right? So 255, 255, 255.0. Now for the gateway, this is telling the Azure machine, when you get something that's 192.168.1.0, where does it need to go? This needs to go to 10.1.0.2. I'm going to flip over here to my pfSense. And remember, we changed that. I'm going to hit enter really quickly, and it will refresh that. It used to be .100. Now it will say 10.1.0.2. And so what I'm doing is I'm telling the Azure machine, if you get something that says 192.168.1. something, send it to 10.1.0.2. And that device, the pfSense, knows what to do with it. So hit OK here. And now we're ready to go. That's very exciting, huh? All right, so I'm going to close this back up. Now we're just making sure we're doing here. Now I need to go back. Here's a quick way to get back into my windows. If you hover over here, I have two windows. One is that one and the other one is that one. I want the Windows Server one. Now, oops, of course YouTube started working again. YouTube started working again because we just fixed it. And now it works. So we're very excited there. I didn't bother to have it time out, but that's okay. Okay, so that looks good. Now, just a couple of little things we're going to try. We're going to see something here. One of the things I want to do also is I want to be able to access from my Azure machine to actually get into the Windows machine. And we actually can't do that. Okay, so one of the things I want to do is just show you here. I'm going to go into here, hit search Windows. I'm going to type CMD. That gives me a command prompt, and I hit enter. Now in the command prompt, we're just going to get used to some of these. Here's one you'll use fairly often. Let's type IPCONFIG. ipconfig. I hit spacebar, and now I hit slash, so a /, type ALL, and now I hit enter. This tells me all the information about the network connections for this Windows server. And notice here, for example, I'm scrolling up a little bit. Yeah, that's very exciting there. Here's the, I don't know, the MAC address here. Notice it says DHCP enabled. Yes, that means we're getting automatic IP addresses. This is giving us this .100. You may not have noticed, but that's actually assigned to it by the pfSense. And here's its IP address and everything else. Now, this is a DHCP. It's a dynamically assigned IP address. And if this is a server, and I need to be able to get to it exactly the same IP address all the time. So I do need to have a fixed IP address. Now, in order to change it to a fixed IP address, I'm going to actually leave this one open. I'm going to hover over this icon in my status bar. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to hit Open Network and Sharing Center. Okay. In here, I go to Ethernet. Here I go to Properties, and I find TCP/IP v4. This is Internet Protocol version 4. This is the one we're going to change. Now, before you change anything, I want to note this one here looks exactly the same. And if I right-click here and open Network and Internet Settings, I can go into Ethernet. I can do Network and Sharing Center. I can go in here, and it looks exactly the same, right? Let me switch back over here. This one is exactly the same as the Azure one. If I change my Azure settings, I have just destroyed my Azure machine, okay? So I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to see any of this stuff. I'm closing that all out, and you shouldn't have even opened it. And I maybe shouldn't have even confused you at all. But make sure you can move this around, that this is your Windows Server network settings. If you do this to your Azure machine cannot be rescued, and it has to be reset, and you have to start over. So that's not a good thing, all right? Make sure you're on your Windows Server. The Windows Server here, as I move this around, it moves everything, and I'm sure it's that one. Here I'm going to hit properties, and now we're going to change it to a fixed IP address. Now, if I'm doing this in the real world, I have to keep track of all of these. I put 192.168.1.2. Luckily for us, we have a very small network. Over here, the pfSense is using 192.168.1.1, so we have to use a different one, but we get to pick our own. By the way, as soon as you come out of this, that's where the 255.255, that's the default. That's the same, by the way, as this 24. There's 8 bits, 8 bits, 8 bits, that's 24. For the default gateway here, I'm 192.168.1.1. That is because pfSense is how I get onto the internet. And pfSense is also the same place, 192.168.1.1. They're the same place that I do my DNS lookups. So I use the same number there. Now I hit OK. I hit close. I hit close. Here I can test it again. YouTube needs to work. All right, it looks good. Feeling good about this. Now I can close this. My network is now set up. I have a fixed IP address, and I'm sort of on my way. Now, let me just show you one little kind of fun thing, or not fun thing. If I'm in here, let me go to this command prompt again. I can do a command called ping. If I hit ping, 192.168.1.1, that's the pfSense, and I hit enter, then I get a reply back. Okay, so pfSense sees me, feels like everything's good. Okay, now what I can't do is actually ping. I'm going to go into this machine now. I'm flipping out all the way out to my Azure machine, and I'm going to do a CMD. And on here, I can actually try a ping. So let's try a ping here. If I ping 10.1.0.2, that's pfSense's WAN interface. Hit enter. Oops. Oops, what did I just do here? Is that not like working? Suddenly my thing is not working. There it goes. Okay. And I hit enter. Notice that here it says request timed out. That's because pfSense actually blocks incoming traffic. That's kind of cool. So let's do a thing. We are going to make it so pfSense allows traffic. Right? Now I'm flipping back into my Windows server, and I'm switching back over to the pfSense. And here I need to click on firewall and click on rules. We're going to put a rule in here that's the worst possible rule that you would never do. Notice here it says all coming connections will be blocked until past rules are added. This is what you want your firewall to do. It should just block any incoming connections. We are going to make this so this machine will allow any connection. So I'm going to hit add here, and we're going to add a pass rule. So in a network, or on a firewall, you have a pass. There's block and reject. Block and reject do more or less the same thing, but that's how you stop traffic from coming in. So I'm going to pass. Interface was on WAN. Anything from IPv4, where it says protocol, I'm going to click any. Where the source is, I'm going to leave it to say any, and the destination, I'm going to say any. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to hit save. Now, that was super easy, and if I hit apply changes, now this rule appears. And I will tell you right now, this is a big no-no. You would never, this is such a bad idea. But we are going to, for now, be doing our first exercises with a completely open firewall. Okay, now let's just show what that does. If I go back here to this ping of 10.1.0.2, I'm going to hit an up arrow. I want you to get used to doing this. If you hit up arrow, it brings back the previous command. And I can hit up arrow and enter, and now the pfSense is replying. All right. Let me just show you two different things. All right. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but we have a ping option from here. So I'm going to hit number 7 over here. I'm going to actually try, this is the 192.168.1.2. This is the IP address of my Windows server. So the one, my little VM in there, and if I hit enter there, this won't respond. And it's because there's actually a firewall running on these servers that prevents it from responding to most traffic like this. But we're going to put an option in to let it reply. Notice it says 3 packets transmitted, 0 received, 100% packet loss. I can do the same here. Notice I might want to hit up arrow, but I actually can just type, let me just put it in here, 192.168.1.2. And this will also give me no response. Request timed out. There should be 3 of those with 100% packet loss. But we can change this. We can change it on the Windows server. We're getting all kinds of stuff going here, but this is fine. I can type in here and I'm going to put firewall. And I want to do the Windows firewall with advanced security. Don't do that one, do this one. Okay, so I'm clicking Windows firewall with advanced security. And in here, I want an inbound rule. I'm clicking inbound rule. I'm going to scroll down a little bit because it's file and printer sharing. And I'm going to expand this a little bit just so you can see it. And this is the one I want. An echo request ICMP v4 in. If I enable this rule, it means allow that type of traffic. Now if I go back here, I can hit number 7. This is very long, 192.168.1.2. And notice I get responses right away. And if I do the same thing here, I hit up arrow and hit enter, I'm getting responses right away. So that's pretty exciting now. Now we have noticed, or we've opened up our firewall such that some stuff can happen. Now, we're going to stop right here because your setup is pretty much complete. We have a completely open firewall. We have a Windows server that is on the LAN side of the firewall. We have our Azure machine, which is on the WAN side of the firewall. And we've seen basically that we can control what traffic goes in and out if we want to. For now, we've just done it open to everything. So to clean up, what we're going to do is we're going to just more or less close some things. First, I'm going to close this command prompt that was on my Azure machine. I'm going to leave that one there for a minute. I'm going to close this firewall with advanced security. I'm going to close this web browser because I'm actually going to close all the applications on my Windows server and I'm going to shut it down. Come on, baby. I'm going to close that one. Somehow this Firefox does not want to close. There it goes. I don't necessarily need to do that. But from here, I'm going to actually say power shut down. Hit other unplanned and just hit continue, and that's just fine. If you shut down or just disconnect and it shuts down automatically, it's going to alert you when it starts up. And this is just a nice way of what we would just call a graceful shutdown. Try to do a graceful shutdown because otherwise it's going to be unhappy. It's almost like, I don't know, any of you that have a console at home, and if you just unplug, like you were playing a game and you put the console to sleep and then you unplug the console will be like, what did you do to me? I'm going to close that one. Over here, you can do this option where it says halt system number 6. But it works just as well here if you hit this shutdown button. So I'm going to hit shutdown here, and I'm going to hit shutdown. This is also a graceful shutdown, and pfSense takes way longer to shut down. So just be prepared for this. pfSense takes a lot longer to shut down than the Windows server, and it also takes a lot longer to start up. So when you're sort of starting your business for the day, you can start up your pfSense first and then your Windows server next. One other thing I would note is I mentioned that if you disconnect from the server, it's actually possible to leave these running. Let me just show you in here. We can leave these running, and I'm not going to do it right now. If you leave it running, you may come back and it may say state saved. If it says state saved, sometimes it will start up okay. But a fair amount of the time, it will say, like, it will come up with an error. In that case, there's actually an option down here that will say delete save state. Don't hit delete here. It'll say delete save state. If you click delete save state and then start it up, it will start up sort of normally. But for now, I think we're good. I'm going to close this one down. I don't especially need to shut that down, but I am going to shut this off. So I'm going to shut this down. So we get a nice graceful shutdown on here too. It will disconnect me. So here I am in Azure Lab Services. This is where I was before. Let me just see if I can refresh this. And the thing, you're now going to see me connected as a administrator. Oh, there it isn't. Okay. Okay, so what I would actually want to do here is actually click to stop this. So I'm going to stop the virtual machine. It'll run for 15 minutes, just like this, and then it'll shut down on its own. But notice I've already used 1.3 out of 4 hours, and I don't want to keep using up my quota. So I'm going to hit stop here, and I'm going to let it stop, and then I'm done. And so that's it for the video, and I hope you enjoyed watching.